if you're following the stock market right now, then you're probably seeing that tech stocks are dropping and that they're pretty volatile across the board. Or if you're browsing r/CS majors or on Blind, then you're also probably seeing that tech companies are starting to rescind offers and going through hiring freezes. Is tech doomed? Hi, I'm Laura, a PM working in tech, and on my channel I cover my life working as a PM, my life working in tech, and other computer science related advice. Let's talk about what's happening right now. Let me put out the disclaimer that I am not an economist or a stock person, so I'm really not the best educated on this, and this is just through my lens and view of the world. Basically, it seems like there's just a lot happening in the world right now that causes a lot of fear and uncertainty around where we're going to go in the future. From the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the never-ending pandemic and the different waves of COVID, lingering supply chain issues, and sky-high inflation, there's not a lot to be optimistic about right now. The growth of tech has also been sky-high over the course of the pandemic, and eventually at some point, the growth just can't keep going at the same rate as it has been over the past 2 years. With all these things gradually unfolding and the sudden decreased growth for tech companies, a lot of their expected projections may be falling a little bit flat. For some larger startups like Coinbase, their hiring may have been a little bit too aggressive this last hiring season, and as a result, they need to pull back the reins a little bit. Or for larger tech companies, they're probably just expecting the next couple of quarters to be a little bit slower, and as a result, they're not looking to hire as many people and instituting a hiring freeze instead. So let's talk about if you should be worried. The answer here is probably not. Tech is here to stay, whether you like it or not, and I'm assuming because you're going into the tech industry, you probably like something about it. Tech has really defined our world as it is today, and I can't really imagine a world without tech unless we fall into some sort of dramatic societal collapse and zombies start appearing out of nowhere. Again, I'm not a politician, economist, or scientist by trade, so it's really hard for me to give a proper informed estimate of what things should look like, when they're going to bounce back, and when you can expect normalcy to return, even though we all know that the world has changed as we know it. Besides, it's not like every single large company out there is instituting a hiring freeze, and it's not like every smaller company out there is rescinding offers from people that they've already sent offers out to. You're really only hearing of offers being rescinded at the unicorn startups and hiring freezes being instituted at the big tech companies where there are tons of different organizations and sectors that can still be hiring. Also, tech will always just bounce back at some point. That's kind of just how the trend goes. Things go up, things go down, and they eventually come back up and down, and they go through this whole boom and bust cycle. One other thing that I wanted to add is if you're currently an intern and stressed about a return offer, I think at a lot of companies, if they already hired you on as an intern, then they expect you to return full-time if you're a incoming senior, so there's also less stress there. There's a pretty low chance of your offer getting rescinded if you're currently an intern and you received a return offer at the end of your internship to come back full-time. This should be planned for, but it can be a little bit more volatile if you're working at a unicorn or a smaller company that doesn't necessarily have the strongest cash flow or continued revenue stream. Okay, so how can you set yourself up for success given the uncertainty and just wildness of everything going on? The first is to not set your sights only on the large tech companies and unicorn startups. I know this is obvious, but it has to be said. If you're a frequent r/CS majors browser or on Blind all the time, then you're probably in the same camp of I need to get into a FANG and quick. Even in a more normal year, aka no war happening randomly in the first couple months of the year and a pandemic, getting an offer from the big tech companies is already a big feat in and of itself. Factor everything that's going on in there and you've got yourself a pretty strong candidacy and a pretty good track record if you're able to secure an offer. Being realistic, not everyone is going to be able to get there right off out of the gates. There are plenty of medium to smaller companies that are still hiring and looking for engineers, PMs, and designers to help build their products. There are still going to be the different types of roles from front end to back end to full stack to ML and what have you in all these different companies, and they're not exclusive roles to just the big tech companies. These are great ways to build up your resume and build up your skills so that you can better position yourself moving forward when you're looking for a more senior role and looking to enter these big tech companies later down the line. The second thing is to know that this is all temporary. Again, tech will bounce back at some point, so it's not like you're just doomed forever if you're currently job hunting and having a difficult time. At some point, there will be an abundance of open roles and ways for you to get involved and working at a company of your dreams. Even now, it's important to not be discouraged because there are still certain teams out there that are hiring and actively growing. At all these larger tech companies, the hiring freezes is usually organization by organization or in a particular sector or even by level. So for example, maybe they're not hiring any new grad engineers, but they're still hiring senior engineers, which means that everything is not lost. Usually, it's not going to be a whole company-wide hiring freeze because otherwise that would prove pretty bad for attrition and making sure that you have people that are filling the roles for everyone else that is leaving. The third and last thing is to make yourself an attractive candidate as best as you can. Is there a particular sector or niche of tech that you're interested in, such as ed tech or security or machine learning or what have you? If you can find yourself and position yourself into a niche, it makes it easier moving forward to deem yourself an attractive candidate because you will probably and hopefully have relevant knowledge, experience and just a greater interest in the things that the team is working on than just the next average Joe. If you don't have a niche, then maybe are there any projects that you've done that are relevant to the kind of work that the company is pursuing? It definitely doesn't have to be a 1-to-1 ratio, but for example, if you have a project related to graphics and you're applying to NVIDIA, then you're probably in a better position than someone who just has some random assortment of projects that are unrelated to that field. Lastly, you can also see if you can get referrals from employees who already work there to get your foot in the door and also have people who can vouch for your skills and get your name out there rather than just cold applying and hoping that you eventually hear back. Your mileage will vary depending on the company that you apply to because referrals aren't always taken as importantly at some companies versus others, especially when it comes to the big tech companies where they have plenty of people applying anyways, and they don't necessarily need referrals to help people stand out or get their names out there. This is also probably a little bit more true at the new grad level that there are so many candidates that it's just a little bit overwhelming even with referrals out there. It gets a little bit easier once you develop yourself and you move towards the more senior levels because there's fewer candidates at each of these levels. That's what's happening briefly in the tech industry and what you can expect moving forward. Again, it's not doomed. There are plenty of companies that are still hiring, and even if you are seeing offers being rescinded or hiring freezes, these are all temporary things that are happening. Don't panic and know that you can still get a great offer out there even if it's not at the startup or a big tech company of your dreams for now. There's always more time in the future and moving forward in your career to pursue and apply for those companies. As always, you can reach out and schedule a coffee chat with me at ak.ms/chatwithlaura or join the conversation on my Discord channel, linked in the description box down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you again next week for a brand new video.